What's up? Hey, welcome to my kitchen. Today, we're on a mission to make the best, most thick, but also healthy chocolate chip cookie, which I know is quite a claim to make, but hello, half the size of my head, packed full of flavor, packed full of protein. I have been testing healthy cookie recipes for years now, and in my years of searching, I have never found a healthy cookie recipe that actually holds up. So this is what inspired me to learn the science behind baking. There are certain rules and ratios that must be upheld. So today what we're gonna be doing is using science to elevate the nutrition of your classic cookie recipe without compromising on flavor, texture, or the essence of what makes a cookie a cookie. So if you're excited for today's video, make sure to shoot me a thumbs up and let's get into it.
So what you will need for today's recipe is 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I don't recommend substituting this if you don't have to, but if you are gluten intolerant or if you just don't have all-purpose flour, you could probably get away with a finely ground oat flour. We will also be using 1.5 cups of pea protein powder. Do not swap for whey protein powder. It will cause your cookies to lift and get really puffy in the oven, and when you take them out, they collapse. And they collapse into these dense and hard, disgusting little pucks. It won't do the recipe justice, so please respect the recipe. Use the unflavored pea protein powder. What's incredible about this recipe is because the cookies are so thick, it actually supports a higher protein powder to flour ratio. So that means that we can cram more protein into these without affecting the texture of the cookie. The added protein is only going to help support having that thick, pillowy texture and not having them collapse down on themselves. Next, we will be adding 1 teaspoon of sea salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 sticks of butter. It's a lot of butter. We love butter. I am just using a regular salted butter. You can use unsalted. I have not tested substituting this for a plant-based substitute, but if you are going to swap it out for something, stick with a solid oil. What that means is that a coconut oil, a butter-flavored coconut oil would probably work, but don't swap this for like vegetable oil or for olive oil or anything crazy like that, as liquid oils definitely have a different melting point as compared to butter. So they're not only going to affect the flavor of the cookie, but they may also affect the chemistry of what's going on in the oven. Next, we'll be adding a 1/2 cup of stevia baking blend. I love substituting this for regular white granulated sugar as it bakes and browns the exact same as sugar. You can swap it in 1-to-1, but it saves you a little bit on the calories, which can be helpful if you're working towards a weight loss goal. We will also be adding 1¼ cups of brown sugar stevia baking blend. I actually just ran out of mine before we filmed this video, so today I turned it into brown sugar by adding molasses to my white sugar mixture in a 1 tablespoon to 1 cup ratio. Next, we will be adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 2 whole eggs. If you would like to make a plant-based substitution, I haven't tested it yet, but I do think that a flax egg could work here. We will also be adding 1 cup of chocolate chips. I'm actually going to be using a mixture of semi-sweet chocolate chunks and milk chocolate chips today because we love a little variety with our chocolate. And what's really cool about these is that the bigger the chunk or the bigger the chocolate chip you use, they're not only providing flavor and that nice like gooey chocolate chip when you bite in, but they're gonna further help with the structural support of our cookie. It's like adding little bricks inside your cookie. We will also be adding more chocolate because we love chocolate. We will be adding 1 cup of chopped semi-sweet baking chocolate. So where the chocolate chips are adding structural support to our cookie, this will be adding depth to our flavor. What I love about using a semi-sweet or even a dark baking chocolate is that when you chop it, because of the higher cocoa content, it actually comes off in shavings. And when you mix those into your dough, you're gonna get a nice, smooth, chocolatey, sweet, but also kind of tart flavor with every bite, as opposed to just when you're biting into a chocolate chip or chunk. And finally, we have 1 cup of chopped and roasted pecans. I actually only had whole raw pecans at home, so what I did is I just poured them out onto a baking sheet, put them in the oven at 350 for about 5 minutes, poured them into my bowl, mashed them on up. I used the spatula, whatever you've got, you can make it work, and I actually think I prefer this. Outside of that, we will also need 2 mixing bowls. I recommend large mixing bowls, 1 for wet ingredients, 1 for dry ingredients. I will be using my hand mixer today, but you can also get away with a regular mixer. This is gonna make your life easier, as well as a spoon for when we eventually take our dough and put it onto the baking sheet, which on that note, you will also need a baking sheet with parchment paper on it. First step is to preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, we're gonna combine all of our dry ingredients in our dry ingredient bowl. Here, I'm using a whisk to bring together the protein powder, flour, salt, and baking soda until it is fully combined. Next, I'm going to cream together my butter and sugar. So the process of creaming describes what happens when you cut sugar granules into a solid fat like butter. As the granules get cut in, they create little air pockets that when you then put this into your dough and put it in the oven, help keep that pillowy, soft, and thick texture rather than something that just falls flat in the oven. Depending on the temperature of your butter and of your kitchen, this may take anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes to fully combine, but it's important that we be patient here and that we wait for it to reach that beautiful, smooth, golden consistency. Next, we're going to add in our vanilla and eggs, mixing until just combined. The reason I say until just combined is because it's really important that now we have these beautiful air pockets from creaming together our butter and sugar. We want to preserve those. So we don't want to over mix in our eggs or over mix in our vanilla. We're stirring until they are just into the mixture and then we are stopping. Next, we're going to very gently mix in our dry ingredients. Again, being careful to avoid over mixing and ruining those air bubbles we've worked so hard for. As your dough comes together, you may find that it looks a little bit more crumbly as compared to a typical cookie dough. This is because when we use more flour as compared to oil, we're gonna have less spread and more thickness in our cookies. And finally, it's time to mix in our mix-ins. So I'm gonna be starting with my chopped pecans and chopped baking chocolate, as these have the finest texture. They will be easiest to combine. Then I'm gonna be adding in my chocolate chips. And for this, I will be using a spoon instead of an electric mixer or a stand mixer, as I just find that this is a little bit more gentle. So I managed to get 10 medium-sized cookies on my baking sheet, but I do still have about a third of my dough left. So if you want, you can either refrigerate this and store it for later. I recommend wrapping it tightly in either a Ziploc bag or in saran wrap so it doesn't dry out, or you can just make another sheet of cookies. So putting these in the oven now for 12 minutes. We're gonna check on them at the 12-minute mark. See if they're golden. If not, we'll leave them in for another couple minutes.
15 minutes later.
And like that, look at these beautiful cookies.
Anyways, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you make these cookies. They're so good. I cannot express how excited I was when I finally got this recipe down after like 5 different batches of cookies. When it hit, like, all I can say is go to the store, get the ingredients now, bless yourself, get the taste of every other disgusting healthy cookie out of your mouth, because these are going to change the game. They may not be the lowest calorie or the highest protein cookie. You may not be able to eat like a whole tray of cookies for 200 calories, but honestly, that's not the point. If you are craving a cookie, listen to your body. Have a cookie and have a cookie that tastes good. That sort of mindset is going to serve you so much better than just trying to eat the lowest calorie thing or like the highest protein version of the thing you're actually craving if you're trying to lose weight and keep it off long term. All right, so I really hope you try this. If you do, let me know in the description box down below. Make sure to shoot me a thumbs up, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.